Hey guys, Julian here from synthwavepro.com. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. So in this tutorial, let's create some basic chords and establish a melody. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can later reference this tutorial because we are going to be covering quite a bit. Also, if you wish to support the channel, please check out some of the links in the description.
Now, without further ado, let's get started.
Alright guys, thanks for joining me. So in this tutorial, all we're going to do here is focus on building out our chords and coming up with melodies. Alright, this is a great exercise to help us, build some chords, come up with some compelling melodies. Let me play out the excerpt here and then we can dive deeper. All right, pretty straightforward stuff here. The thing is, we are going to focus on this chord sequence here, this guy here. Let me put it in isolation. All right, fair enough. So how do we get to this point? Well, firstly, let's lay down some chords. And I've already done this here. So let's turn our attention to our piano track here. And initially, the idea started off with this motif, all right? So basically a series of chords. Let me go ahead and play this out on the piano. All right, very straightforward chords. We literally have 3 chords here. So the first one being the C6 or the C major 6th chord, C, E, A, C, followed by the second chord, C, E, G, B, which is the C major 7th chord, and then finally a D minor 7th chord, all in root position. Okay, so these root position chords are absolutely fine. We can go ahead and build out our song. But one thing we can do to make things a little more interesting here is turn our attention to the voicing clip here. All right, it's identical to the root clip I've just showed you, but we're going to make some slight alterations. So we're going to take our first chord here, the C major 6th chord. I'm going to highlight the E here, which is a third of the chord. I'm going to click shift and arrow up, and this pitches that note an octave higher. All right, so the same notes, just an octave higher. We're not doing inversions here. This is called voicing. We are spreading out the chords over, I guess, beyond the octave, right? So when it was in this position, everything is contained within the octave. Now we're going to extend our chord and have that major third all the way to the top. Same thing for this C major 7th chord. I'm going to highlight the E, shift up, and I've pitched these 3 notes up an octave. Let's play what this sounds like. All right, this is what we had previously. Fine. Now we can do this for other chords as well. Let's focus on this third chord here. Remember our D minor chord here? This time, instead of using the F, I'm going to pitch up the D, the root of the chord. I'm going to click shift, pitch it up an octave, right? So now we have this really cool melodic step that's taking place at the top of our chord sequence here, which is E, and now the D. This is something we want to be conscious of when we are voicing our chords. We want to make sure that the chord structure kind of makes sense and we don't have these massive jumps like a 5th or a 4th or a 6th. What we're doing here is keeping things relatively close. It sort of ensures a nice smooth transition. So let's play what this sounds like. Verses. So it's a lot smoother once we have the D pitched up here so that the E and the D are relatively close. It makes for a more stable chord progression. Now let's turn our attention to these cluster of chords here. We could go ahead and repeat the same sequence here because remember we have the C6 chord here. We have the same chord here, but we're going to keep this as is only because the top line is descending and we're going to keep descending. Right? So this would make sense harmonically. So let me play the entire sequence here. These cluster of chords. Versus, let's say I pitched this up, and let's pitch the D. Again, nothing's wrong with this sequence. It's just that we have this nice melodic line that sort of extends our motif. So instead of, literally copy pasting the same chords over and over again, what we're doing is basically leveraging our chords by using some clever voicings. Now, what's interesting with chord voicing is that the top note of any chord is the one that usually stands out. The human ear likes to detect the highest note and sort of create this melody. So if I'm to play the upper note of this sequence, this is what it sounds like. Now I'm going to play this an octave higher. So I'm going to start off by playing the E, then the D, the C, and the B. This is what it sounds like. So there's almost like this built-in melody to this chord. Mind you, we're not playing a melody, but the melody is sort of apparent if you really, pitch it up an octave higher and do what we've just done. Let's go back to our root position clip here, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to play the highest note of the chord, which would be the C here. And I'm going to pitch it up an octave higher on my keyboard, and we're going to play the upper notes of every chord. Again, that's not a bad melody. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just think that this sequence has a lot more, character, wittiness about it. Again, that really illustrates the power of voicing. Now, finally here, we have the voicing clip plus the melody. And what's really interesting with this clip is that we are combining not only the chord stabs, but we also have a melodic motif playing in the same piano roll, just an octave higher. So let me go ahead and play this. Cool. So again, we are using our voicing clip. Here you can see the E and the D have been pitched up, and we've inserted our melody here. Let me play this in context using the preset that we've made, and I'll engage another one just so that we can get some call and response. So basically what you see here is pretty much our voicing clip. Remember the E here at the top, we've pitched that up an octave, and we've simply added a melody on top of this. The really cool thing about this is that not only is this preset able to act as a sort of chord stab, but we can also create a melody using the same preset. All right, so let's deep dive a little more into the melody behind these chords here. And basically we're starting off with one of these tension notes. Let me go ahead and highlight the melody. Okay, so we have a combination of tension notes as well as resolution notes. So this cluster is basically using a combination of tension and resolution notes. Same thing for this upcoming melodic motif. We're using a tension note for the F, which isn't a part of our C major 6 chord, and then we're landing on a resolution note. All right, finally, same thing with this chord here. We're using the A, it's not part of this C major 7th chord, but the resolution note of G is. And even here we're doubling up on the little 3-note motif here. We have it here. And then the F, right? And the F obviously is the minor third of the D here, which is voiced this way. We've pitched the tonic here at the very top, but it all works out together. So one of the good things of having the piano roll include not only the chords, but also the melodic material is that we can double check to make sure that everything works with the underlying chord structure here, right? So if we're not too sure about music theory, we can kind of, do stuff like that, see if it matches. Obviously here it doesn't, so we wouldn't put notes like that into our sequence, but this is literally how we can go about building out the melody. All right, so when you're using this technique here, when you're using the chord stabs as well as the melodic motif, all housed in the same piano roll, one thing you can consider is to be resourceful and use the space, right? So we have a lot of gaps here. These are the chord strikes here, the main chord strikes. And then we try to input those notes basically when the chords are not playing. Now, we're not always successful. As you can see here, the A here is definitely during one of those chord strikes. But for the most part, the D here has no chord playing with it. Same thing for the first F. The A, we have it during a chord strike. And of course, these notes here are playing during the gaps. And this is a great way of creating some, I guess, counter rhythms, so everyone's getting used to the ta 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 ta. And so on top of that, we have this other melodic motif that's sort of playing against it. All right, so it just gives it a little more rhythm. All right, so let's do a quick recap here. I know that was quite a bit of information, but you'd want to start off by building out your root position chords, maybe make some changes and alter the voicing. And then finally, once you have your voicing set, this is when you can input your melodies. So let's start off with this first clip here. I have this low pass just so that I can make some commentary and I don't have to fight with the audio. Root position, the voicings. Sounds more melodic to me. And then finally, voicing plus melody. Slight variation on the motif. All right, easy peasy. If you're new to the channel, thank you for hanging out and consider subscribing and liking the video. And if you've been here since the very beginning, I really appreciate your continued support. That being said, stay safe and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.